It's 2 o'clock, so we'll start the meeting. Prynhawn da bawb a chroeso I gyfarfod addysg sgiliau a lles. Good afternoon and welcome to this hybrid meeting of Education, Skills and Wellbeing Scrutiny Committee on the 8th of September 2023. I am Councillor Rebecca Phillips and I will be chairing the meeting. Just to make everyone aware, this meeting will be recorded. Please can you ensure that your phones are switched to silent for the duration of the meeting and that your microphones are muted when not speaking. If members wish to speak or ask a question, please could you raise your electronic hands or physical hand if you're in the council chamber. Also, for those in the chamber, please use your microphone when speaking. For the purpose of the next agenda item, which is declarations of interest, I can confirm that we have chosen to scrutinise Cabinet Board agenda items 7, 12, 13 and 14. So moving on to declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest from members today based on the items we have chosen to scrutinise? If yes, Pamela will forward an electronic version of the form for you to complete and email back to her. So I will start on item 12, declaration of interest as Governor of YGG Trebanos and Pontedawe. Are there any other interests to declare, please? Councillor Sonia Reynolds.
As a governor for the same item as a governor of YGG Gwancagyrwyn.
Diolch. And Marie Caddick, please. Okay, Adam and Mo, please.
Sorry, could you just use your mic, please?
I am got a card in this one. I'm a governor in Yslywr Brodyr and Rosafon, and I've got a son in Rosafon and a son in Brodyr as well.
Okay. Councillor James Henton, please.
I'm a governor at Ysgol Tregellis.
Diolch. Councillor Phil Rogers, please.
I'm a governor at Catwg and Llangatwg.
Diolch. Councillor Wood, please.
I'm a governor at Ysgol Baglan.
Diolch. Councillor Peter Rees, please.
I'm a governor at Cranach Primary and Kevin Syson Comprehensive.
Diolch. Councillor Whitelock, please.
Likewise, I'm a governor at Ysgol Cwmbronville.
Diolch. Councillor Carpenter, please.
Thank you, Chair. Governor at Melyn and Knoll Primary and a daughter working at Kevin Syson Comprehensive.
Diolch yn fawr. Are there any other declarations to declare? No. There we go. That's great. So Pamela will forward the form for you to complete. So we'll move on to agenda item 3, minutes of the previous meeting. You will see the minutes attached at pages 5 to 14 of your agenda pack. We'll take the two sets of minutes together. If you feel that these minutes are an accurate record of the meetings, can I please have a proposer and a seconder? If members do not indicate to the contrary, then I will take it these minutes are approved. Could I please have a proposer and a seconder for the minutes?
Happy to propose, Chair.
Happy to second, Chair.
Great, thank you very much, members.
Chair, I see no indications to the contrary, so the minutes are approved.
Thank you, diolch yn fawr. Agenda item 4, annual report. Do members have any questions on the report? No, I see no questions. The recommendations are listed on page 16 of the agenda pack. Can I please have a proposer and a seconder?
Happy to propose, Chair.
Happy to second, Chair.
Can members please indicate if they wish to abstain?
I see no abstentions, Chair.
If you do not indicate to the contrary, then I will take the recommendation is approved. Thank you very much.
Chair, I see no indication to the contrary, so this recommendation is approved.
Diolch. Agenda item 5, update on the rollout of universal primary free school meals. The report is here for information and is on pages 29 to 38 of the scrutiny agenda papers. Officers, would you like to add anything additional to the report?
Just to say really that, you know, I'm really proud of our catering department who've managed to roll this out so quickly and so well. And it's just been a total success. So just like to add my thanks to Jane, who sadly couldn't be here today anyway, but I'll pass it on to her.
Yeah, and we have had indication from members to pass on thanks from the committee as well, so that would be great. Thank you very much. Before we move on to the Cabinet Board agenda papers, I'd just like to bring in, oh, sorry, Councillor Reynolds.
I just had one quick question, and that was just looking at the risk management bit on that. It says, there are a number of risks associated and, parent guardian expectations. I wondered if there'd been any feedback from parents and guardians about the rollout. And
I haven't heard anything. I'm sorry, I haven't heard anything negative. So that's positive, because it's always when there's negative feedback we get to hear about it. No, as far as I understand, everything has been as it should be. Everything's has gone really well. So, no.
Thank you. Sorry, Chair.
Okay, great. So before we move on to the Cabinet Board agenda, I'd just like to bring in Councillor Reynolds, which has a statement to make, please. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I've got concerns about the viability of the Scrutiny Committee, given the agenda items that we've got today. We have 4 items on here which are new to this committee that come in, and most of us present don't have context and information on. And those are the agenda items 8, 9, 10, and the performance monitoring further on in the agenda for environment. And it doesn't fit with the Scrutiny Committee that is education, skills and well-being. It just doesn't fit. We try hard to do our best in Scrutiny. The agendas have got bigger, and this then just makes it a lot harder. There's no context around these, and it makes our job extremely difficult to hold officers and others to account. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reynolds. Your statement is noted. So moving on with the Cabinet Board agenda. Agenda item 7, increased planned places Blaenhon the Primary School. The report is here for decision and is on pages 15 to 66 of the Cabinet Board papers. Have officers got any additional information they'd like to add to the report, please?
Sorry, yes, only just to say that this is the second report that has come. There are 3 reports when we take a school reorganisation proposal. This is the second one in the series. We've been out to consultation, didn't have much response, as you can see, which again I'm taking as a positive rather than a negative. And obviously there'll be another report coming before members for the final decision, which will be I think around December time. So thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much, Rhiannon. And I have got some questions indicated beforehand. If I could bring in Councillor Wood, please.
Thanks, Chair. What I'd like to ask officers for is a categoric assurance that if the numbers of ASD children drop, that Maes Mahog ASD unit, which appears to mirror what we're looking at putting in Blaenhon, then will not close. Thank you.
I can't give you a categoric assurance for the long term. I don't know, but I can tell you now for the as far as we can see, ASD numbers are not dropping; they are rising dramatically, and the future of Maes Mahog primary unit is as secure as anybody else in the authority at the moment. But if you're asking me to predict 10 years, 15 years, I don't know. I couldn't say. But there are no fears. There are no plans. There is no discussion around it closing of any kind. So I can reassure you, for this point in time, that there's nothing on the agenda there.
Okay, thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Diolch. Councillor Caroline Lewis, please.
Hiya. My question is with regards to the transport. It mentions the annual transport costs are difficult to predict, but obviously, could we have a rough estimate? Because obviously, if you've got 16 children coming from the Crosshair area or GCG, then it's going to be higher than those coming from, the centre of Neath. Could we put a sort of a rough estimate in there, or a worst case scenario?
I feel like I'd be very negative today, but I'm afraid the answer is no, because things change overnight, and again, transport costs, as you know, are spiraled at the moment. They are just going through the roof. We don't know at the minute where these children will be coming from. So without knowing that, I can't tell what their transport needs might be. If they're in the local area, they won't have transport needs, obviously, at all. So it's as long as a piece of string, you know. So really, I can't. I'm sorry. I can say that on average, and you know, taxis costing around now around 350 a day, 350. No,
Yes, huge,
you know,
isn't
so
it? Yeah.
it is a massive cost. But that, with the introduction of the personal travel budgets, that is starting, we're hoping, is going to start to drive the price down, because at the minute taxi operators can ask what they want and we have to give that to them because we haven't got an alternative. When parents are able to approach taxi drivers themselves, that cost comes right down. So contracts then are not necessarily being replaced, and that, you know, will bring them back down, we hope, to a more reasonable level. So whatever I say to you today could be completely different by the time the unit's open. So I wouldn't like to even hazard a guess, I'm afraid. And I'm
Okay.
sorry that I can't do that.
No, I understand, and it could change from year to year, couldn't it? And month to
It
month.
absolutely, depending on where the children are coming from.
I thought they could have a rough or a sort of, you know, a worst case scenario, but that's absolutely fine. The other question I had was with regards to specialist staff within the provision. I'm aware of how difficult it is to get your support staff that are qualified these days, qualified nursery nurses, without having an ASD qualification on top, or, you know, the qualification to able to use PECs and all the things that the children with ASD require. Is this a bit of a concern, or are we taking the staff from other provisions to set it up?
Yes, you're quite right. It is a more specialist role to work in a unit than it is to work in a mainstream classroom. It as part of the advert that will go out, we will be asking for additional experience or qualifications in that field. It's harder again for support staff because the opportunities to get those qualifications are not as easy as they are for teachers to get. But what we will do, and what we do in every time we open a new unit, is make sure that there's a training package for the staff going in there. We aim to sort of, and I don't know how we'll be able to do it this time. I'm hoping that we will. We aim to get staff in place before the children come into the unit, you know, sometimes a couple of months before. And what we do then is make sure they go and visit other units in this authority, other authorities. They get to know the children who are coming in. There's some transition work that goes on there. And we just send our staff, and we just, I don't know what the word is, we sort of bombard them, if you like, with the training and with the skills that they need to be able to deliver it. And then we do handhold them for a long time after as well, to make sure that any sort of early difficulties or lack of skills or gaps in their knowledge are filled in as much as we can. So yeah, it is a concern because there are less staff out there, but we do our absolute utmost to make sure that we put everything we can into training them before the unit even opens.
And last sort of question regarding staff training, sorry to, is with regards to, you know, our taxi drivers or transport staff. I know many years ago, when I worked in a special school, there was a lady called Debbie Ryle who was an ASD advisor, and she would actually give training to our taxi drivers, our dinner ladies, anybody else that wasn't class-based. Do we still do that as an authority, and would that be part of the specialist training, you know, to support the children in all areas of, you know, their day, isn't it? Because getting into that taxi in the morning is just as important experience as being educated in school, isn't it, for those children?
Absolutely. We have specific travel trainers. We've got two. It doesn't even, you know, it's not even a drop in the ocean really of what we need, who work with children through transition and things like that. And there are specialist staff as well within the inclusion service. In relation to taxi drivers, they're not employed by us, they're contracted by us. So we can't insist on training for taxi drivers or for escorts, but we can work with them, especially when the school asks us to. You know, our travel trainers can go out and sort of give that support where they can, but we can't insist on any sort of formal training for either of them. So that it is a bit of a gap, but when they're not our employees, we can't really insist on it,
No, I
unfortunately.
understand. It would be lovely to have something in-house, but no, I understand. And it would be great if we could give the option of, if they wanted to do it voluntary, there is training available, you know, maybe online or something for them. So maybe that's something we could consider. Lovely.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll take
Thank
that
you
back.
very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Diolch. Councillor Reynolds, please.
Thank you. Paragraph 13, page 251. I was a bit confused by what was said there in terms of, it says this is likely to be a temporary reduction as schools and local authorities across Wales transition to the new system, and it's about the SEN ALN numbers. I'm on the wrong paper. I didn't have a question on this one. That's why you've confused me totally.
Sorry.
I'm thinking, what question?
No problem. Thank you, Councillor Reynolds. Does anybody else have a question on this item, please? Nope, I can't see any. So the recommendations are listed on page 25 of the Cabinet Board agenda pack. Can I please have a proposer and a seconder?
Happy to propose, Chair.
Happy to second, Chair.
Can members please indicate if they wish to abstain?
Chair, I see no abstentions.
Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary, then I will take it that this decision is supported to Cabinet Board.
Chair, I can see no indication to the contrary, so this recommendation is supported to Cabinet Board.
Thank you. Diolch. Cabinet Agenda Item 12, School Inclusion Update. This report is here for information and is on pages 249 to 258 of the Cabinet Board papers. Officers, would you like to add anything additional to the report, please?
Only the fact, Chair, that it was requested that we bring more information and more detail around about exclusions, and not just permanent exclusions, but all types of exclusions. We're happy, John and I are happy to take any questions on this.
That's great. Thank you. So we do have some questions beforehand. Councillor Reynolds, please.
Yeah, I'd skipped ahead whilst I was listening to get the papers in the right order. So when I thought, okay. So yes, you've already had a preview of it. Paragraph 13, 251. We're talking about, a temporary drop in fixed term exclusions for SEN, ALN. I'm assuming that and they said it's only temporary, that paragraph indicates. I'm assuming that it's a data capture problem, but why is it only temporary? Why is it likely to change, was my question, really.
Yeah, I understand your question. Thanks for asking it. I wouldn't call it a data capture problem, but it's certainly a data capture issue. Because of the changeover from the older SEN system to the new ALN system, terminology has changed. COVID has had something to do with it as well. The number of referrals that have come from schools has slowed because children haven't been in school. Because of the, by the time that the children go through the pathway and get then assessed, it can be a long process in certain circumstances. So we wanted to flag up that if we didn't put the last part of that sentence in, that it's a temporary issue, it looks as if out of the whole report, which is going in one direction, this is going in a different direction, and it was at odds with each other. So we want to be clear with you that whilst the data for last academic year for SEN and ALN children in hardcore data is good, the temporary balance will reappear again next year as ALNet beds right into schools and right into the authority, and children complete the pathway of the assessment that they're going through. Does that make sense?
Absolute sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Diolch. Can I bring Councillor Wood in for the question, please? Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. I mean, it's more of a sort of support of what you're recommending on here more than anything. But I think, we've got to bear in mind that with the cost of living crisis as it is, these exclusions are a punishment to parents these days, just as much as they're a punishment to the children. And we've got to realise that, certain families that are out there are really struggling. And when a child is sent home from school, that parent may have to take a day off work. And I welcome, a lot of what we are saying in terms of restorative justice and things like that. And I just wanted to thank the officers for looking into this and looking at alternatives. to what is really a national problem. Thanks.
Absolutely. I think that's something that we would support as a committee as well. Thank you all for your work. And I know it's really difficult at the moment for everyone involved. So diolch yn fawr. Any other questions from members, please? No, I don't see anyone. So this report is for information. Therefore, we note the report. Moving on, Cabinet Agenda Item 13, Welsh Public Library Standards Assessment. The report is here for information. Officers, would you like to add anything additional to the report, please?
No, nothing further to add. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from members, please? Councillor Reynolds.
Thank you. It's one, the report mentions case studies. Is it possible to see any of those? Because it says they've gone to the Welsh Government, but I didn't see them here. It's just interesting to know what's been shared as someone who's involved. The other thing is, I just wanted really to talk about and say, as usual, this is a good report. It really congratulate people on that, but also these services are crucial to our education system and to people in general in communities at the current time, in particular when people are struggling. I realise that we're coming to a time of budget and we're looking at essentials that have to be funded. I would like to sort of put a bid in early for preserving our library services and being sure that we look to maintain library services going forward, including the support that's given to community libraries.
Thank you, Councillor Reynolds.
We can send the copy of the case studies out.
Yeah, that's great. I think we'd be interested to see them. So thank you, and thank you very much for all your work. Any further questions on this item, please? No, I see none. So the report is for information. Therefore, we note the report. Agenda item 14, Q1 performance indicators. The report is for monitoring. Do officers have anything to add to the report, please?
No, Chair, happy to take any questions, though. I know that some of the graph representation is new. It's a new system to us. And also some of them are also only valid at the end of the fourth quarter to give you any real depth to it. But we're happy to answer any questions you've got.
That's great. Thank you very much. Councillor Rogers, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just one point, it's on page 292. I note from last year we introduced a system by where we give rent-free to childcare, Welsh language childcare. And it was, in the first instance, was going to run for 1 year. Now, having noted it's been quite successful, because on page 292, we can see the number of places in Welsh language and bilingual registered childcare places has actually increased quite a bit. What concerns me is the numbers in English medium schools has actually decreased. And I'm just wondering, are the free or rent-free going to continue just for Welsh medium, or is it going to be rolled out to English medium opportunities as well? Because I feel the system will be unfair otherwise. Thank you.
Okay, this isn't my area. This is Hayley's area, but Hayley's not well, so I can take this because I was involved with the Welsh medium setting up of the childcare provisions there. First of all, I understand there is to be a review, and I think it was last year a report went, so it'll be this year sometime that review will come before you. As far as I know, the childcare provisions were set up in the Welsh medium schools as part of our WESP planning. We needed to raise we still need to raise our numbers of children going into Welsh medium primary schools, and without that early years intervention in the beginning, we started off on the wrong foot. So it was definitely about promoting and making sure the WESP is supported in that way, and that those numbers are built up. So I got to say, from our point of view, from the Kate is on the call as well, but from the point of view of the WESP, I would like to see that continuing because it is making a difference. And we do find as well that often these Welsh medium provisions are in quite isolated areas sometimes. There's one in Cwmllynfech where the numbers are quite small and the children are quite small and they're never going to make a profit and they're going to barely break even. So unless we support them and get them running, they will shut, and that will have a negative impact on our WESP. So short answer really after all that is that the review will come out. I don't know, well, English medium settings are usually larger in general, and are usually, you know, there are usually different rules around them as well. But in the review, that might be an option they consider. I don't know.
Thank you. The only concern is that I'm grandparent and my daughter pays for both of them to go to English childcare in an English medium school, Abbey Primary, and they have to pay a considerable amount, whereas it seems unfair if someone in a Welsh medium school doesn't pay as much, yet they might have the same income. So, you know, I think it's about stopping discrimination between the two. I think I'm not against the Welsh thing. I think I'm totally in agreement as, you know, as head of Welsh language promotion strategy group. So I'm all for that, but I think it needs to be done fairly. Thank you.
Yeah, I note your comments and take them back to the childcare colleagues.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Reynolds, please.
I wanted to come in on that point, but to do so, I need to declare an interest as a trustee of Canolfan Mardy with Welsh language childcare in the third sector in GCG. And I have I'm allowed to speak on things. Yeah, thank you. Dispensation, that's the word. And I have concerns. It's always been the policy in the authority not to compete unfairly with other, you know, parts of the childcare sector. There is a concern, I mean, that there is Welsh medium provision outside, and all childcare providers are struggling at the moment. It's difficult to pay the relevant amount of wages. They're not covered by teachers' agreements. Many childcare workers are paid at minimum wage in order to be able to make childcare affordable. So there is a real concern about advantage going to some areas, and we need to be aware of that as the council in terms of fair competition, and we don't want to put other providers out of business.
Yeah, again, I note your comments and take them back. And I think you're right. There are a lot of providers going out of business at the minute. They can't get the staff. They can't pay the staff. And I think, you know, my colleagues are aware of that, and they will be looking at this in the round and making sure that they do what they can to take account of all these things.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any further questions on this item, please? Councillor Reynolds, please.
Things I was originally going to say. So yes. Under the on page 292 on youth figures, increased interaction with young people. Can someone define what sort of interaction? Is it interactions that we've initiated because there's a problem, or is it you know, like Neath or whatever, or is it within youth clubs, or what's the type of interaction that's increased?
It's all of the above, councillor. So I can get more detail from Jason for you to break it down, but we are seeing young people bring their friend along to youth clubs. We're seeing, because we've increased the type of youth club we're offering as well, we're seeing an increase in that. Now that COVID is passing us, it's still around, but it's past us, we're seeing people willing to come out of their home and come to more youth activities. The NEAT agenda is one to note as well. So when we are made aware of a young person that may not move on to employment or training, we have that catch up. We've also got a homeless worker now working with your youth service. So whereas they might have been invisible to us because they were sofa surfing, we've now got a dedicated member of staff to reach out to these young people. So it's all of those you mentioned.
It's both of them. Thank you very much, Chris. And the other one was item 27 on page 301. Communities for Work Plus, clarification of criteria. That the programme has changed, as I understand it, and it's quite difficult to find out who qualifies. So it's increased and it's good, or it looks as though it's increased and it's going well, but is it possible to have a clear sharing of the criteria under which people can be helped for Communities for Work Plus?
Certainly, and we'll include that. I think on the Forward Work programme, we're going to do more of a focused look at that, employability in general, so we can certainly bring that in.
Great. Any further questions? Councillor Carpenter, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's a question about the youth service, really. I think it's excellent to hear that more young people are attending youth centres. The ones that give me grave concern at the moment are the ones who are hanging out in our parks and public places. As councillors, we meet every month with the Inspector of Police, and there are often problems in our town centres and also in the parks, particularly in my case, I notice it at the Melin Park and at Victoria Gardens. I want to ask the question, what's happening about unattached outreach youth workers that are trying to help these young people without support and advice, are getting involved in gangs, in county lines, and also drug addiction as well. I'd like to know a response from that. Thank you, Chair.
I'm not sure if I can give you a response on that, because the youth service do a certain amount of work, and then you've got the antisocial behaviour team, you've got the Cynydd workers. So I think I'd have to take that away and do a bit more work on that to give you a proper answer.
Yeah, that's great. If you can feed back to us, Chris, that'd be great. Thanks. And thank you, Carpenter, for that very valid point. You know, it's something that does worry us as local councillors. So thank you, diolch yn fawr. Do we have any further questions on this item, please? No, I don't see anybody. So this report is for noting. So we'll note that report. Thank you very much, officers, for your work on that. We'll now move back to the scrutiny agenda. Agenda item 7, committee action. This will be a standard agenda item going forward. There are no actions from the previous meeting. So this item is to be noted unless anybody has any comments. I see none. Moving on to agenda item 8, the forward work programme. This item is just for noting unless members have any comments or questions. I don't see any. Urgent items, I have none. So that brings us to the end of this meeting. Thank you very much for attending. Diolch yn fawr, and thank you, officers, for all your hard work as usual. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you, Chair.
Chair.